contentious the way some cities are.
Jenna's probably having
Good evening, everyone,
hard time coming to Madison.
and welcome to this meeting of the Oregon Village Board on Monday, February 5, 2018 at 5 p.m. I'd like to call the meeting to order, please, and request roll call.
Brethauer,
Here,
Bollig,
Here.
Grenier,
Here.
Staton,
Here.
Jacobson, Boudreaux,
here.
Carpenter. Here.
Thank you. And I'll turn it over to the Park Board for their call to order and roll call.
Yeah, I'd like to call the Park Board meeting to order for February 5th.
Knudsen, here. Brethauer,
Here,
Zip, LeBrun, Stromeyer,
Here?
Miller,
here.
Jameson,
Here.
There he is. Ken, you're
Right over here, Ken. Okay, so that takes us to item 5 for this joint meeting. Item 5A is Town and Country Engineering on the topic of the Alvin Kellstrom Memorial Park. Let you take number 1 there, Rich.
Okay, so we have the Alvin Kellstrom Memorial Park. To get this on the record here, I recommend to the Village Board to approve the Alvin Kellstrom Park design, as well as recommending authorizing Public Works to commence bidding for this project. So do we have representative from?
You may want to do is get a motion and second, and maybe Brian can do that way, Chief. And
Yeah.
have Brian do an overview then?
Yeah.
I move. So moved. Second. Okay. So with that,
Okay. Let's have Brian do the overview now.
Yeah.
Okay.
yeah, Brian.
Good evening, thank you. My name is Brian Berquist. I'm with Town and Country Engineering, and just came by to mostly answer any questions that the committee or the board had regarding the layouts. Not sure if, did folks get a chance to get the photos and park layouts?
Yeah, we have all
Okay,
that.
perfect.
Thank you.
So not a tremendously complex site. I'm sure you're all familiar with the location. Essentially, it would be follow the Van der Waal concept plan almost verbatim. Some small changes to the concrete layout, but it will basically focus on a pavilion on the center of the lot with some sidewalks connecting it to both the path and out to Market Street for folks that are doing on-street parking, with the intention that it would be kind of a waypoint on the bicycle path. And we're all set to take it out to bid, pending any questions or concerns or changes from the village.
Yeah, Jeff, you want to go ahead? You look like you want to talk.
No. I think maybe we should just clarify where this is located, just in case people don't know this. This is Braun Road, the entrance to the business park, Market Street, and there's kind of this small piece of land that was kind of a chopped off piece of section that when Braun was installed, and it was land donated to the village by the Kellstrom family, and kind of as for a memorial park. And you can kind of see it's just this grassed area. It's actually grassed right now. It's kind of just a nice little mowed area that's been kept. We have a sewage treatment or a sewage recording station right here from Oak Hill Correction Institution. I'll switch to this. So really, we wanted to keep it simple, and we worked with Van der Waal early on and just kind of a conceptual layout and kind of some sidewalk connections. If you remember, there's actually an existing path that goes along here, the bike path, asphalt path, and kind of the idea behind it is a connection with sidewalks into a central pavilion area. It's 25-foot square, and this kind of gives an idea of at least the design we're proposing for the pavilion. It's a prefabricated pavilion type structure. They call this a carnival roof rather than just a straight, four-sided pyramid type roof. Gives a little more definition and detail. Obviously colors are going to be different. The other thing that's going to be different in our design is we actually have flagstone up to 4 feet.
Correct.
I think kind of a flagstone cap on each corner, just kind of dresses it up and makes it look nicer. Bicycle rack out near the bike trail, and I think that's about it. You know, you can kind of, you know, we've also installed a few, are going to be installing a few storm drains just to be able to catch. It's not a very super well graded area, and we don't have a lot of grade out there, and we're not trying to do a lot with it. So we just want to be able to collect so we don't have standing water sitting around in that area.
Okay, thanks, Jeff.
So the sidewalk will go along Braun and end at Market Street, correct? There will not be a sidewalk along Market?
There's no sidewalk along Market Street. There's not a sidewalk as you go down further either. And at one time, we actually had this sidewalk kind of curving back up to the bike path, but it didn't really make sense when we had this. So this is going to be kind of like a, what do we call those, Brian, where they just, a terrace?
We call it a carriage walk.
Yeah, carriage walk, yeah.
You bring your carriage on Market Street, or people parking on Market Street want to come, like a sidewalk to a front door of a home.
We have handicap access, accessible access out here at the bike path, and then everything's at grade to be able to get into that.
Other questions or comments?
Is it feasible to bring water to the site, or is that been ruled out for cost or other reasons?
We weren't
There-
planning, or go ahead.
There is a 12-inch water main underneath that bicycle path, so that if you ever wanted to, it'd be very easy to get without having to cut into Braun. We don't have any plan for a water service, but it's imminently there if you ever wanted to create one.
Were you thinking like dog and water fountain and dog fountain kind of?
Yeah.
Yeah, we weren't, yeah, I mean, I think it's something to consider. We actually at first didn't even have electricity planned out here, and since then we've planned to have electricity brought out here just in case there's a need. It's a lot easier to bring it in now than later after all the landscaping's done and everything. But if you would like us to bring water into it and put a water fountain in, that's something we can definitely kind of see where that comes out on the budget.
It would increase the usage of the park, I think.
I like the ones where they have kind of a dog bowl down below where you can hit that and then got the people bowl up above.
I would think it would be helpful to the development of the park.
Okay.
Yeah.
And we can include
I
that.
think we'll add that as a line item. And that's something we can always cut out if it's over budget or something. It's a good
Okay.
idea.
Thank you.
Jeff, will there be signage on Cusick Parkway so walkers and cyclists on the Oregon Rotary Park are aware of this as a place they can go and stop, get water if it's there, that type of thing?
Yeah, we weren't planning on it, but that's always a good, I mean, we could add that. I know we kind of keep a little budget every year for path signage
Yeah.
and upkeep and stuff like that. It wouldn't be, we could do that. I mean, we don't have anything right now on the Alpine Parkway, or the Alpine Meadows, Keller Alpine Park, excuse me, area that directs people to the parking lot, but as this area develops, we could add that.
Yeah, okay. Does that sound okay with the park board? Just seems like that might increase use, and also if there's water there, it makes it handy for both. So it's not that far away to buzz down there, get water, and head back.
Is that more of a maintenance issue in the winter
Well-
for shutting it down?
You need the water? Yeah, we have them in downtown now that we just, they're frost-free type of thing, so you usually disconnect shut off the water and they naturally drain. The only thing I can think of though is we are actually adding a bike maintenance station that was going to be at the parking lot off of Netherwood Road. That may be more of an area for bikers and respite there, and signage that would be towards directing them down that way. But maybe what I would suggest is just, we kind of know the direction of the board, and as we see this develop and everything, kind of get an idea of where it would be best
Yeah,
situated.
I'm fine with that. Jerry?
Yeah, I think this is a great use for this piece of property. For years, it's been sitting across from the Wisco Industries North facility. And Elvin Killstrom, for those folks that don't know or remember him, he was a very colorful character in our community. And not only that, but he was, you're laughing. Not only that, but he was the founder of Wisco Industries, which for many years was like the biggest employer in Oregon. So I'm sure the family's going to be pleased with this. Is there a memorial plaque planned for this too?
The family's paying for that.
Okay, right, and then what, we have enough, the fund that we included in the budget
I even
this
asked
year?
that. We borrowed $82,000 last year for the project.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Other questions or comments?
I just have a comment too. I think that this is a very good idea, especially for the Kellstroms. I think it's glad that they brought it up to us, and this looks like it'd be a great building and contribute to all the things that he has done in the village.
Yeah, thanks, Darlene. Yeah, it'll be a very nice addition to the north side and nice recognition of Elving.
And I think it'll get a lot of use with the bike path right there too.
I think so too.
Does the park board have a preference on the color, or would you like us to bring that back to you in the future, or as far as the pavilion?
Could we,
I have no issues with whatever color you choose.
Now, careful, careful.
Well, that's true. I'm talking to him.
Blaze orange it is.
You know what I mean, right?
Orange and black, yes, I know what you mean.
Orange and black.
Yeah, there you go.
the Kellstrom family, are they, have they had input on, did they choose that pavilion or?
No,
No, it's more consistent with what the concept plan had, which was a square 24-foot structure. These type are quite popular because they kind of show up ready to build, bolt together. So pretty low cost, low maintenance. There wouldn't be a whole lot of, short of roof line, there aren't a whole lot of options for the square type pavilion, but
yeah, architecturally, these buildings, it's really A to Z. You can get them from really trendy looking, swoopy kind of things with fabric roofs and all that kind of stuff.
True.
But we're trying not to, I mean, obviously we have a limited budget and we want to be able to put the money into, we also have, we don't have the landscape plan on here tonight, but, well, is it?
I think
There
that's
it is.
Yeah, it's here.
Okay, so you can see that we've got shade trees, maples, autumn fantasy maples along here. We've got some, what are these, elms along here, and then the back is some evergreens. We wanted to have kind of a evergreen buffer here because this is the, help me out here, Seville Corporation warehouse right here. So it kind of provides a nice buffer along here, and then some crab apples around there. So I think that frees or has money in the budget then to be able to at least start it off and landscape it nicely.
I had one question on had you considered in the design a stormwater infiltration before the water would hit the sewer?
no, mostly because of the small site and the relatively low budget for the project. Part of the reason when we started laying this out with staff to keep the land disturbance down was to try and leverage, if you will, the existing pattern. There is no drain for it now. If you look at it, you can kind of see there's a bowl. And oddly, it doesn't seem to trap water as much as I would have expected it to be. So we're going to try and, we're going to drape the sidewalk kind of on that same bowl. These drains are kind of a belt and suspenders to help in case we get rain on frozen ground type thing, but we're not going to be disturbing enough nor creating enough impervious area to trip the village or Dane County requirements.
Right.
Other questions or comments? Anyone?
Would you think you would want the color of this to be maybe match what Wisco has a back over across the street? I don't know.
We could. My thought was is we were going to work with the family unless they were choosing blaze orange or something like that, and I think something that would be neutral colors. I don't think we want to do anything, super bright or anything. Maybe it's Memorial Park, so I think it should be, other facilities we have in the village are kind of tans and dark browns and
Yeah.
that type of thing. And they look nice a very long time too, period.
Other questions or comments? So has the park board previously voted on 5A1, Mike, or they're doing that tonight?
They're doing it tonight.
Okay. So anything else, Brian, you need to present?
No, I'm all set if
Okay.
there are no other questions.
Thank you. Nice design.
Thank you.
I like it.
Appreciate the
So if you
opportunity.
want to take that motion second for a vote.
Should we
then, Rich?
add to that the addition of the water fountain? Does that need to be part of the motion?
Yeah, sure.
Probably.
I think looking at that, yeah.
Yep.
Okay. So, do you want to read the motion?
Yeah.
Should we?
Yeah, go ahead and read the motion
Okay.
that's there.
Okay.
That's how you can do it. You do it. Wanna read the minutes?
So what I have minus the water is the motion by Miller to recommend that the village board approves of the Kellstrom Park design as well as recommending authorizing Public Works to commence bidding for the project, but you would like to add, let's see,
To include the addition of water?
Water fountain, I would just call to the site.
okay.
That would be the motion.
Okay, you're all set, Rich.
Okay.
Have a vote.
Okay. So, all in favor of that motion, respond by aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Okay, thank you.
Motion
So that
carries.
comes to the village board on item 5A2, village board action. The motion from the park board, whoops, I'm sorry, Doug, you should do this, shouldn't you? You got it there in front of you? Doug is on, for those in the audience, Doug is on the park board also as a village board rep, so.
I move to approve the Elving Kellstrom Park design, including a water spigot, and approval for Public Works to commence bidding for the project.
Do we have a second?
I'll second that.
Thank you. Any further discussion or questions? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Thanks, Brian.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Have a
park
good
board.
evening.
So our next item is item 5B, also with the park board. Presentation of J.C. Park West concept plans and costs by the Rettler Group. So we'll have that presentation by the Rettler Group, and then we'll have village board and park board comments, and then the next will be comments from the public. A number of sports, youth sports representatives in the audience that may wish to comment, so. Welcome.
Thank you. It's good to be here. Heck of a drive down today.
Yeah, I'm sure.
We're happy to get here safely.
Well, the weather was fine until Jeff started talking about how much salt we had left. It's been
Not
snowing.
enough.
It's been
Not
snowing
enough.
no, we have plenty until it starts snowing again, because if he hadn't said that, we'd be all right. but-
We,
We're working
made it
with
safe
you.
and sound. We're excited to be here. So thank you.
Good.
Thank you. So Jeff, did you just want us to get right into it then?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, on behalf of Rettler Corporation, I'd like to thank the village board and the park board for the opportunity to be here this evening. My name is Ross Rettler. I'm a landscape architect and partner with the firm. And I had worked with Rebecca Ramirez, another landscape architect, to develop the plans and costs, along with Jeff and Mike. It was a great process. We vetted several different options prior to coming up with option or concept number 5 that we're going to be presenting to you this evening. We're very excited to be here, so thank you. So before we jump into the plan, I'll just give you a brief overview of Rettler Corporation. Rettler Corporation was founded in 1989 in Stevens Point, Wisconsin. We are a multidisciplinary firm of landscape architects, civil engineers, land surveyors, and construction managers. And we take a multidisciplinary approach to developing projects from start to finish for our clients. So that's just a brief overview of us. So I guess we'll just jump into the plan and go through what's included as part of the J.C. Park West expansion. Really, there's 4 primary program elements as part of this plan. It would be the baseball complex, the soccer complexes, the hard surface parking and trail additions, and then infrastructure, building infrastructure, bridge infrastructure, and utility additions. That's kind of how we'd like to break it up. So I guess what we'll do is we'll work from west to east with the park. Currently, what we've done as part of the plan is we've maintained the existing parking facility at the northwest corner of the facility. To the south, we've shown 2 new parking additions of roughly 77 stalls. And as part of access, not only for vehicles there and parking options for vehicles, we've also provided 4 new access points coming off of North Oak Street to the east into the park facility itself, past the new parking areas. As part of, one of the challenges obviously as part of this space, as part of the park, is the existing drainage easement or drainage corridor that you have running north and south. And what we've done as part of this is shown 3 new pedestrian bridges, 1 relocated bridge and 2 new bridges, and then maintain the existing bridge at the north end of the facility. So moving from west to east, so what we've done is added the baseball complex as well. And what we've done for the design of the baseball complex specifically is looked at the Cal Ripken standards. As part of those fields, we're showing 2 220-foot Little League fields at the north, a Bronco 250-foot field to the south, and then the 330-foot Cal Ripken Babe Ruth field to the southwest. Also, as part of one of the bigger infrastructure improvements as part of that baseball facility would be a 1,600-foot concession restroom facility and scorer's booth at the center of a decorative concrete plaza. North of the baseball complex, right now we're showing 3 full-size baseball or soccer complexes at 210 feet by 360 feet, and then an additional at the southwest corner, an additional 210-foot soccer field. These, with the 4 different fields, we've shown orientations for U10 fields as well. We've provided an option for 9 U10 fields as part of this development, 2 to the southwest, 3 to the north, and then the 1 additional in the north corner. We've also included a buffer space for landscaping north of those soccer fields as well. As part of the soccer complex, we also looked at relocating the existing maintenance, soccer maintenance building, shed, shown there, correct? Directly to the west of that, we've shown the, a new outdoor play area, soft surface play area, and then an additional parking addition onto your existing lot of roughly 47 spaces. Trail networks are shown encompassing the entire facility to the north and to the south, and through the baseball complex as well, providing access to both parking lots on the east and west sides of the facility. So from a master plan standpoint, I think that's a pretty good overview of what we've put together. If we could just roll into the concepts, it'll just do a brief run through of some of the primary elements included. So as part of the earthwork and demolition for this project, big cost being your mobilization, the earthwork, the demolition. Based on being around 25.3 acres, we were looking at roughly $529,000 in improvements as part of that. From a utilities standpoint, including stormwater management allowances, storm sewer utility allowances for connections to your soccer complexes and your baseball complexes, electrical underground services for the new building, and then sanitary and water for the new building as well. You're looking at roughly $256,000 in improvements. For the 47 stall parking lot, the pavement structure for that, we're looking at roughly $96,000. For the 2 77 stall parking lots, you're looking at roughly right around $116,000 to $117,000. So the pavement structure for the decorative concrete plaza around the baseball facility, you're looking at roughly $138,000. The overall walking path network for asphalt hard surface pavement, you're looking at $197,000, $198,000 of improvements. The playground area with the concrete exterior walkway around it, you're right around $50,000. For the 330-foot full-size Babe Ruth field, you're looking at roughly $302,000. For the 1 250-foot Cal Ripken Pony League field, it's $215,000. And then for the 2 combined 220-foot Little League fields, you're at roughly $386,000. And the one thing I will mention as part of these estimates is All the baseball and soccer complexes would be under drained with 4-inch under drain tile. And they would also have amended soils as well, outfields. So for the 4 210-foot by 360-foot natural turf soccer fields, you're at roughly $408,000, and for the 1 U10 field, we're at $43,360. The buildings and miscellaneous sections, just to give you a breakdown, that included the new concession scores booth building, 40 by 40, roughly 1,600 square feet, at $384,000. Relocating the soccer storage building, we just put in an allowance of $5,000. And then the addition of the 3 new pedestrian bridges at $150,000 apiece would bring you to $450,000. Fence relocation based on the proximity of the outfield for the 330-foot Babe Ruth field at $7,000. And then just a landscaping budget for that buffer at roughly $25,000. So that's a basic run through of our planning costs. We're here to answer any questions that you have here this evening.
Yeah, Mark?
In one of the, there's some drainage changes that have been done in the village and moving things around. Has any consideration of, instead of putting bridges in, putting a culvert or some other means to have that waterway in there, or is that?
I think we talked about some different options in terms of bridges. I think we looked at the existing condition of what was there. We're obviously always open to other recommendations. Jeff?
Yeah, that was, we talked about that, because I thought, boy, if we could just put that in a culvert and not have to clean it every year, and it's so flat, so, I mean, it's really kind of a royal pain. But I think we were looking at a extremely high cost. Just putting the similar sized culvert in at South Prairie Parkway is running several $100,000 for 250 feet. And we're talking about, what, 1,000 feet here? So it,
Roughly, yep.
you know, it's, we're in the wrong spot. You know, we just looked at it and we kind of said, let's just keep the drainage where it is. And in fact, we're even talking about as one of cost-saving measures, possibly reusing the existing, you know, keeping some of the bridges in the existing locations and just reconfiguring the paths.
I think that, yeah, that relocated pedestrian bridge that we were showing, we can definitely maintain your existing bridge where it would be
Right.
currently and just reconfigure the walkways.
Exactly.
Accordingly, you bet.
Instead of running a culvert the whole 1,000 feet, Mark, what if, and I don't know if this is what you're getting at, but what if you used a culvert as opposed to the $150,000 footbridge and then filled that in just at that spot?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's definitely something we can consider in the design, I think. You know, it might work itself out well in looking at field placement, but you know, we've kind of tried to maximize, if we're looking at here, we've tried to maximize this area along here for parking, and it does actually kind of works with it still being there. You know, we've kind of winced a little bit when it came to the price of the bridges, because they seem very, very expensive, but you know, Rettler has a, you know, experience with doing this recently, and you know, that unfortunately they're costly. But Jeff, like what you're talking is maybe take 200 feet in the middle here, and then that just be kind of a pedestrian walk away, drive across, whatever, instead of having bridges.
I wasn't even thinking about 250 feet, I was just thinking the width of the bridge.
Right.
Being a culvert with dirt over the top and a path that way as opposed to.
I think it would be important to look at obviously regional flows and the amount of water that does carry through that area.
Yeah.
And then consider what we would need.
It's
for
not a bad
section.
idea.
Yep.
Would the fields be lockable, or would it be open 24/7?
Based on the design we're showing currently, the fields would be open.
They would be open.
Yes, for access. The baseball fields would all be fenced. The soccer fields would obviously be open, but the baseball fields would be fenced with 8-foot fencing with gates. That's all included as part of the breakdown of the estimate. We didn't want to overwhelm you with all of the line items as part of this estimate this evening, but there are, as part of the baseball facility, you're looking at new masonry dugouts, all new backstops, obviously everything that comes along with those baseball facilities, but they'd all be secure and you'd be able to close them or close them.
Okay.
Jeff, don't we have a bridge on the west side in a park that's not used?
David Park.
Isn't there one there? That's
Yeah.
like the ones over in J.C. Park, right?
Yep.
Do you have, are there plans for that bridge someplace?
There haven't been, yeah. that could be a reuse of that.
You'd have to look at the moving of it and.
Yeah.
So are we discussing the possibility of moving or taking out the current bridges and replacing them? Is that what I'm hearing?
I think originally, Jeff, we had looked at the opportunity of relocating one of the bridges, but I think now that we've kind of reevaluated this one concept just a little bit, we noticed that we could probably keep it in place and maintain
Okay,
it currently. where
because
it's
those are synthetic
Right.
lumber. I mean, they're in fine condition. They
Right.
seem very safe.
I think we can definitely accommodate maintaining that one in
Okay.
place, so.
Right.
You know, another thing we could think about is inviting the Boy Scouts to consider a footbridge as an Eagle Scout project.
I'm wincing at that.
What's that, Jeff?
Well, I'm kind of wincing at that.
Yeah.
Just because it's probably beyond the scope of an Eagle Scout project, unless the Eagle Scout's a master's in structural engineering or something like that. But I think it's just the span of what it is. It's more out there than what people think. It's maybe 35 feet or something like that.
Other questions or?
Well, I'm looking at the $4 million number. And I'm kind of choking a little bit on that. And I'm not saying it's not worth it. I'm not saying it's, the estimate is too high. I guess I'm asking the park board, is there that much demand in the village for something like that? And did you give any consideration to the fact that they're only going to be used part of the year?
So Jerry, in defense of the park board, this is the first time we're seeing this. This is a.
Okay, all right.
This has been going through staff.
Sorry.
And that's why there's
Sorry, folks.
There's organizations
Yeah.
out in the audience we've been working with.
Okay.
This is kind of a initial presentation.
Well, I'd be happy to hear anybody field that question.
Yep. And that's what drove his request. We were starting to work with Jamie Bush and their organizations that are looking for additional fields. There's a lack of athletic fields in the village. That I can say easily.
Okay.
Yep.
So, Steve, I had a comment that I wanted to make about this project, and I want you to help me figure out when's the right time. It's more of a general comment, but specific to this project coming
Yeah,
forward.
I think, go ahead.
So I've had a lot of time to think about this over the weekend and to kind of sort through my thoughts. And the first thought that came to my mind was this is an amazing example of a public-private partnership. And that's the only way that we're going to be able to move the village forward, is with public-private partnerships. So I want to applaud the folks that have stepped forward to invite the village to partner on this project. From where I sit, I'm always trying to prioritize requests, and it's tough because many times it's just us up here. But today we have the benefit of village residents, so I'm very excited to hear what their thoughts are, as I am every evening, because it helps me sort through my own. But as I was by myself on the weekend thinking this through, what people love about Oregon is it's a great place to live, not an okay place to live or a good place to live. And I think in order to make Oregon and continue Oregon being a great place to live, the things we do here have to be excellent. If we try to do everything, we're going to wind up doing nothing excellent. And so the key to my opinion, the key to our growth and success as a community is to be excellent at the things we choose to do. And the real trick for me is needs to have versus nice to have. That to me is a threshold that has to be met. So as I was thinking through what's in front of us right now, I feel that the library is a need to have. It's critical that we do it right. It's time sensitive. It's going to require county funding, or it's going to affect county funding if we don't do it right by the time we hit 10,000 residents. So to me, that's the first thing that we need to do, and we need to do it right. The second thing is the administrative offices for the village. Again, it's critical to administering the village government. It's time sensitive in terms of the size and the scope of the project and the increasing cost of borrowing. The third thing that I think we need to do is a senior center. I think it's critical because of the size and the scope, because of the immediate need that we have for affordable housing and providing options for seniors who cannot age in place in their home. The other benefit of the senior center and affordable housing for seniors is it opens up the first-time home buyer market as seniors start to move out of those homes and into affordable senior housing. And that's good for the community. The fourth thing is the fire department's gonna need a new engine and a ladder truck. It's not critical today, but we have to keep reminding ourselves that it's coming, 5 to 10 years maybe, and that's about $1 million in borrowing today for the village, maybe a little more. And then finally, I get to J.C. Park and even Perry Parkway. When we take the $500,000 borrowing for J.C. Park and we take the $1.5 million for Perry Parkway, we've got the $2 million that we came short for the library borrowing. Those are my comments.
Okay, thanks, Jeff. Yeah, so those in the audience can see there are lots of things on our plate. Not as much money on those plates, so that's how that fits together. Did you have any comments, Mike, that you'd like to make as far as all those projects and?
Well, I mean, every year we do the budget, and we do the capital improvement plan, and you know, as every board sits here and makes those decisions. When we looked at this project, we saw the potential of, with Perry Parkway going through, that this park could be used a lot, and hopefully that would then put people in the hotel. I mean, we're making actually the connection between the extension of Perry Parkway and the building of the new hotel, and the need for athletic fields to me, they're all connected.
Right.
And we came up with, as Jeff is right, this public-private partnership, is we realized that we could not go out and borrow $4 million for everything else we have going on. And one of the things that we talked to Brettler about doing, but we didn't want to get ahead of the park board and the village board, was doing a phasing plan.
Yeah.
I really think that'd be the next step, to show that we don't need to spend $4 million to get this thing going. We think we can do it in phases, and, you know, it's very common to do it that way. And I think investing initially $500,000 and then using another $500,000 as a matching grant, or matching funding from the village, would be a good thing to do, to be honest with you. I'm not saying other things that Jeff went through are not important, but I think the development of athletic fields is pretty important in the village. We're hearing that as a complaint, that we just don't have enough fields. People are having to go into Fitchburg and Brooklyn to
Right.
Yeah.
get their kids.
Yeah. You know, I've been on the board 15 years now, and athletic fields for youth sports has been on the docket for at least 12 of those, if not more. And I have a friend that's consistently talking about amenities that are present in Dane County communities. If you fall behind on that, you're going to fall behind as a community. And I see this as an amenity that helps us keep up. And as a former school administrator, you know, toward the end of my career, this was done in 2004, but more and more people were school shopping. And they'd look at the academics, of course, and spend time on that, but academics in Dane County schools are all really good. It's pretty much a wash across the board. There's a little bit of difference, but it's all real good. So quite frankly, a lot of parents were looking at athletic facilities. And athletic facilities do help attract people into the community. The school district has done a study. They expect to grow by 2,000 students, 50% by 2030. There'll be much, much more demand for athletic fields. And again, attracting people to come into the community and stay here and enjoy that. And yeah, I agree, Jeff, that all those projects you mentioned are important. Each board, each year, however that's comprised, will have to decide how they're going to allocate out the dollars and what they move forward on, so, and how big those projects will be.
And I have been working with Jamie Bush, and him and I are both working on, it's going to bring people into town for all our business owners. So our businesses are gonna get busier, because we're gonna have people come into town, they're gonna find someplace to eat, someplace to shop, and it's gonna help our kids out too. I mean, there's a lot of kids that are looking. I know people that go to Fitchburg right now and and I'm sure everybody sitting in this room can, you know, they go and have to sit and wait for their kids to get done playing or practicing or whatever. So we really would like to have this in Oregon, and it would be a nice addition for us. And you know, right now we got this wonderful group of coaches and families and things like that are willing to help us. So now's the time if we're going to do it. Otherwise, you know, what do we know what's going to happen in 5 years? So now's the time.
Steve, are we going to be able to hear from some of the sports organizations?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
I was just going to ask, that's
Okay,
next on the
good.
agenda, just going to ask if there are any other comments from Rattler folks or at either table, so.
I think the one other comment I would make is that, you know, dollars and costs are always something that people look at, and they, you know, it's kind of a sticker shock item. But the one thing I will say is when we do develop our cost estimates, they are based on current bid documents that we've gotten unit prices back on. So it's up to date in current dollars that we're factoring into these estimates.
Okay,
So,
thank you.
you bet.
Any other questions right now? We may have you come back up too, but we'll hear from the folks in the audience who would like to talk. Anything else from the park board or village board right now, or staff? Okay, so we will open up discussion for anyone from the public who's here who would like to talk. Just come right up. What we'd like to hear you comment on is the need for the facilities as you see it.
And Steve, you may want to, if people are willing to, from the organizations willing to talk about the 650 that we'd be asking to get from the community and from the organization. I should tell you that initially, sorry, but we were initially going to say community fundraising at 250 and then 400,000 from organizations. I don't think really care, as long as the 650 gets generated.
Yeah. So I don't know if the sports folks heard that or not, but any comments you might have about contributing through all the sports organizations, $650,000 over some period of time. So, welcome. Go ahead.
Thank you. Hi, I'm Paul Zwicker. I'm one of the assistant coaches with the Oregon Stoughton High School Rugby Club. It was established in 2013. Currently, we are looking at going to state once again this year, and hopefully we'll win it. Our rugby fields we're currently using a high school football field, which is undersized. It's a middle school field. We are not allowed on the big field or a lacrosse field or any other fields in the area, simply due to lack of use, I believe, or lack of room. We are attempting to move to a farm field at the bottom of over by the Speedway, International Speedway, that happens to be quite saturated in spring, and it's going to be a nice little mud fest this coming spring for us. We do have goalposts, which are quite expensive, that we could establish and put into a new facility if the soccer fields were built of the size that we would be able to utilize as well. They would be set back goalposts out of the soccer fields normal playing area. So the rugby club does have need. Our rugby is currently one of the fastest growing sports in the nation, and we currently look to the future to continue this. And as football numbers dwindle, we start to pick up a few more players now and then, and we actually play a little safer game than a lot of the other sports, believe it or not. Questions?
Well, the rugby field is wider than a football field, is that correct?
I left my numbers back here. No, rugby fields, yes, they are wider than a football field.
Correct.
Similar levels, similar dimensions to a soccer field, skinnier than a soccer field, about the same dimensions in length, depends on the professional versus high school versus college. We need about 120 meters in length to get the goalposts back for a full size, but you can go to 110 meters with a 100-meter playing surface, which is about what a soccer field is.
Okay. Other questions? Okay, thanks,
Thank you.
Paul.
Good luck at state.
Thank you.
Who would like to speak next?
Hi, I'm Ryan Knoble with Oregon Youth Baseball. And I know we had already kind of mentioned about the needs for the baseball fields. For the last probably 3 or 4 years, we've had 500 to 550 kids in our program. That number will probably grow with, based on the school district projections for the upcoming years. Right now, probably about a fourth of those 500 to 550 kids are practicing and or playing games in Fitchburg. So obviously, we do have a shortage of fields here in Oregon because we've had to use Fitchburg. I think this is a great idea, a great plan. I think we're probably still going to be maybe short a field or two even with this, just because with this fourplex, we're also losing 2 fields. We'll be losing Stats and Faust field, which we currently use. So we'll basically be gaining 2 fields with the fourplex. And right now we use probably 3 fields in Fitchburg alone. So while this will definitely help, but I think we're probably still going to be in need for another field or 2 even if this goes through. Any questions?
What are the ages of youth baseball? What ages?
So we start pre-K with our T-ball program. all the way up through 8th grade.
Sounds like a great program. Just wondered, do you have any residency requirements at all for your league?
So they have to the parents either have to live in the school district or the kids go to school
Okay.
here. Those are basically the two. Somebody from outside the district, we will allow them to play, but we won't bump any Oregon kids, so we won't let them play on our travel teams. But they can play in our in-house recreational leagues too.
So when you play in Fitchburg, do you have to pay a fee to use their?
They do not charge us a fee. They do, however, charge us like for field maintenance and like prepping the field before the games and stuff.
All right.
So we do get charged there. So typically, we're paying anywhere from $1,000 to $2,000 just for that.
Oh, that would be a savings if you didn't have to.
Right,
pay that.
exactly.
Thank you.
Do you have any idea what percent of kids are in the village and what percent are outside the village?
That are in our program?
Yeah.
I would probably say, are you talking just strictly within the village limits or within the school district?
Within the village limits,
Okay, I would probably say 75 to 80%.
are in the village?
Within the village limits, I mean, because we have kids that are in Fitchburg that go to school here that are all able to play.
No, I mean just kids that live in the village of Oregon. They're not in the town of Oregon or in Fitchburg.
Or in Brooklyn.
anyplace else. Yeah, it's just within the village. So here's the issue, Brian, that some people have talked about, that I have also, is that the village puts all the money in the fields, but there are a lot of kids that play on those fields that don't live in the village. So there's been some talk about should kids that live outside of the village pay a little bit extra fee to help take care of field maintenance or field
I see.
improvements, that type of thing.
Yeah, I would say over 50%. I would say
Yeah.
maybe about 60% of the kids are within the village.
How do you think, what would the reception be if kids outside of the village limits had to pay a little more to help lead toward that $650,000?
I think you might get some pullback or pushback from the people that would have to pay that fee. Because they go to school here, they would probably argue the fact that they don't think they should have to pay a fee to be able to use those
Yeah,
fields.
but the school's not paying anything for them.
Correct,
The village is. So
correct.
that argument would fall flat, I believe,
Right.
at least in my estimation. it would.
Right. I don't think they would be happy about it, but whether or not they would still do it.
Yeah, yeah. And how do you feel about the organizations, baseball in particular, helping reach that $650,000 contribution before any work starts on this? That's not set in stone yet, but that's one. thing
Right.
proposed.
I know we've kind of talked in some prior meetings with other organizations that the organizations would kind of pool together as far as a fundraising effort. So we're not doing our fundraising separately. We would kind of
Yeah.
join in with all the organizations combined and put together a fundraising effort. I think we could definitely raise those type of funds. I think there is a strong need just in people I've talked to about wanting more fields in Oregon.
Okay.
I had a question with the fields that you use in Fitchburg, are they lighted or,
Yes, yeah.
and how critical is?
Actually, some of them are, some of them
How
aren't.
critical is lighting?
Actually, the ones that are lighted in Fitchburg, we are typically starting our games early enough where we haven't even had to turn them on. So I don't think lights would be a big issue. I think that's something that if we decided that could come later. I don't think it would have to be in the initial phase of the, it's nice for tournaments. We do host a couple tournaments. That way we would be able to play a little later. Because right now we use Kaiser Fields for our tournaments and we usually have the lights on so we're able to play some games later. But I think that would probably be the biggest need is just for the
Yeah,
tournaments.
just looking at the expense, it's like close to 1.4 million. just for
Right,
the lighting,
right.
so.
You had mentioned that you pay a couple $1,000s to Fitchburg in fees for maintenance of the fields. What do you pay to Oregon for maintenance of the fields?
So currently, the school district has also prepped the fields for us. I want to say it's probably typical, or around the same, maybe about 1,000, because we don't, for the fields that they're prepping. So it's a little cheaper, but we are still getting charged for prepping the fields too. And if we have to use like turfus, which is if in case it rains or whatever, we'll pour that on the field to help it dry quicker. So they charge us for that, but they let us purchase bags from them.
Okay. And so, I guess to go back to the comment about charging kids outside of the school district more, if the school district is prepping the fields, that might
I mean, with the new fields, I guess that's kind of up in the air, because if the village is owning them, I don't know whose responsibility it is going to be for taking care of the fields.
Right.
Whether it be Oregon Youth Baseball, the village, or if we hire somebody ourselves to take care of the field.
Right. Okay, thank you.
The school district uses the fields a lot also for their
Yeah.
games and stuff.
Yep.
One question here, for the Fitchburg user groups, do they take priority precedence over you? I mean, are you kind of like a second-rate customer, so to speak? How easy is it?
Very much so.
So I meet with the head of the parks over in Fitchburg, and he's got different organizations that use those, including his own programs with Fitchburg. So basically, he works out a schedule. I wouldn't say we get priority over anything. I think Fitchburg gets priority over us, and then we are able to get what's left. But one league we play out there plays their games, and they just reserve those nights for us in order to play those games. And then for practices, we kind of get whatever's left over. He tries to be fair with all the organizations that want to use those fields.
Thank you. Other questions or comments, anyone? Okay, so thanks, Brian. I would encourage you to talk within the organization, the board of directors, about kind of like a non-village resident fee, what they think about that.
Okay.
Is that doable to help make this happen? Maybe once it's paid for, that goes away, and then also that fundraising.
Do you have an idea, and maybe you already said this, and I don't remember what you said, but do you know what that would look like, or kind of how much of a fee we would maybe consider?
You know, I think it depends on the phasing, how much money needs to be raised and how much payments are each year.
Okay.
That's still to be determined, but I would not want to see that be exorbitant. And also, where there's a need, there needs to be a way to pay that for kids.
Okay.
And I think every organization does that.
Yeah, I can definitely
The kids
bring.
that can't afford the registration fee, there's some way that gets taken care of, so.
Okay, yep, I can definitely discuss that at our
Okay,
next
good.
meeting, so.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else wish to present to the board at this time?
So Steve, do we have to, I'm sorry, do we have to get everything, the village has to get all the, what do we call that? All the bids? Does the village have to get all the bids, or can it be done?
Publicly bid.
So,
Okay.
so we can go through Matt and I worked on his plan, which is, your question is answered in the plan, Judy.
Okay,
We gotta hold that for 1 second.
okay.
Yeah.
Jamie
So- go ahead.
Bush is on his way also, so he kind of wanted to say a few words,
Okay.
so.
So Mike mentioned the possibility of having Rattler prepare a phasing plan and not looking at coming up with $4 million right out of the gate, so, which I think is probably the only way to do this. So is that something that the park board and village board would like to have them do?
Yeah, I think that sounds reasonable.
Yeah, I think out of necessity, there's no choice, right? It's not going to happen otherwise.
How many years were you planning on phasing this over, Mike?
Have you thought of that, Ross?
Excuse me, you'll have to come back to Mike. It doesn't pick up for TV.
Probably some of that depends on the fundraising, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
That's typically a
Yeah.
big part of these projects we've seen is depending on when the dollars can be raised, all the different groups involved.
Yeah.
Obviously makes a big difference, but from a timing standpoint, we really haven't discussed that yet. I think the big thing is once we know what your initial dollar amount is, then we can start to carve out what options.
So maybe the answer to that question is when you get, maybe we should go through the plan.
Yeah.
And then we get down there, Matt and I have an idea. Matt, could you come up to the mic, please? Matt and I had the idea that adopting a resolution, so maybe that resolution should actually, maybe that should even come before we even start doing the phasing plan, because we've got to make sure that, would you please? That way, the park board and the village board are okay with, maybe with the initial $1.6 million. Because if that doesn't, if that's not the correct number, then Rutler will need to know that. So you mind if we go through the plan?
No, it's just
Okay.
catch
Matt,
up
do you
on
wanna
the
do
agenda.
it?
So we're going to do the overall plan, going to
Then
be
we ask-
presented by Matt Dradney, our village attorney.
And then we ask, Judy's questions answered in this.
Okay.
So there are a number of moving parts to this. The agenda for the meeting kind of outlines it. I'll walk it through, and feel free to stop me if you have any questions at any time. So the first piece of this, I'm starting under item B4. I. So first, we had to talk about the question of ownership and operation. We've explored a number of different options. The current thinking about this is that this park would continue to be owned by the village. It would be a village park. The village would be responsible for maintaining the park and operational issues such as scheduling and so on. And the thinking, at least at the staff level, is at some point the village is probably going to need to have an on-staff, park and rec director to manage all of that. We've had some discussion about the concession building and how that would be handled, and again, the current thinking is that that would also be owned by the village, but potentially leased to a private party to operate during the year. And that provides a little source of funding. So I'll just mention briefly, I mean, the alternative to village ownership and operation was somebody else owns and operates this, and that started to get extraordinarily complicated when you consider the number of different organizations that have an interest in participating and using this facility. So then, how do you make this work from a financing and planning and construction standpoint? So obviously, there's going to need to be a way to match up the financing and fundraising and the phasing. That hasn't been done yet. We don't have, an exact match between phase one and what that cost is and the fundraising component. But some of the parts that have been kind of that we've got on paper at least at this point for discussion. So as I understand it, the village has, in its current draft capital improvement plan, $500,000 that could be available as seed money, I guess, for this. And then we've had some discussion of whether the village might choose to offer additional seed money as a kind of a matching funding for fundraising that might be done in the community by the sports organizations that are interested in this facility. And at this point, we've been looking at this possibility of, say, a total of $1 million of village funding and $650,000 in private fundraising. Exactly how much that is able to accomplish out here, I'm not sure, because we'll have to see what Rettler comes up with from a phasing and and a cost estimate standpoint. The way we've thought about how this might work, and just to back up a little bit, so we've obviously had a number of discussions with Jamie Bush and others in representing the different organizations that are interested in this. And the idea here is that the athletic groups would be responsible for the private fundraising. And the village would, hold off on actually issuing village debt until fundraising targets are met. And those, we're obviously going to have to talk about exactly what those targets are, but at this point, what we're thinking is, when we get to $650,000 in private fundraising, then the village would potentially move forward with issuing village debt. Yep. We want to make it clear that the village is not actually responsible for the private fundraising. That's going to be up to the other organizations to do that work. I think we also need to make sure we are having good communication about what everyone's expectations are with respect to how things are going to work. We've got some people who are very excited about getting out there and marketing this and raising funds and have a lot of great ideas, but I think we need to be on the same page in terms of those ideas. So just to give you some examples, things like naming rights and selling advertising and things like that, we've got to make sure we have good communication about how those things are going to be handled, and we all are in agreement as to how those things are going to be handled. With respect to construction, this is a village facility. We're going to be using certainly village funds as well as private funds. I think we're going to be in a place where we're going to need to publicly bid this project and do this in accordance with public bidding and construction laws. I know I've heard an interest in exploring sources, potential donated materials and labor and so on. Happy to look at that, but we'll have to look at specifically what we're talking about and see how it would fit into the framework of public construction before we could agree to do something like that. to move forward with this, somehow we've got to find a way to move all these different parts together into a kind of a cohesive plan. And so the elements of that seem to me to be kind of a phasing plan with cost estimates that can then match up with funding projections and targets. And so I think a lot of the pieces are there, but we have to start bringing them together and making things line up. I also think that, so the kind of the two next pieces of this that I see kind of coming together are the phasing plan with dollars associated with them, and then potentially a resolution that would be adopted by the village board that would lay out the overall game plan, what the phasing looks like, what the village financial contributions would look like, and how those would have to be matched or complemented by fundraising. And how we would address all the other issues that people might have questions about, like naming rights and advertising and all that kind of stuff that might come into play here. So I see us working towards something like that, a village board resolution that kind of sets the framework so everyone knows what the game plan is, that also then matches up with kind of a phasing plan and cost estimates that your other consultants have put together. So that's kind of that's what the plan looks like right now. I know it's kind of messy still, but stop and see if there are any questions.
So I just don't really have a question per se, but I want to make a statement that's going to inform my vote. We're spending all this planning time right now talking about how we're going to tackle this project, and I've been involved in a similar project, and I hear what you're saying about, you know, if you go the public construction route, you've got some laws that are going to prevent you from being able to use volunteer labor in most cases, because of the way the laws are written about public projects. And that's why in a previous project, we didn't go that route, so that we could do it less expensively using donated labor. And that may or may not be an issue. But what's in the forefront of my mind right now is the last meeting that we had with the village board, and I still have not heard how we're going to move forward as a board member. And that's concerning to me, because to me, that project is the most important project that we have in front of us. And I think that's where we should be spending our time and our money. So with that said,
On which project?
Which project, Jeff?
the library,
Okay.
Well, the library, the ad hoc committee is meeting next week, Tuesday, and I just met with Dr. Bustler, and we're moving ahead with it.
yeah, so what I'm suggesting to you is, as a board member, what you just said to me, this is the first that I'm hearing of that. To me, that is the most important project that's in front of me. In the last conversation that I was a part of, we were $2 million apart on what the study said we needed to have and what we were willing to give as a board. And I need to address that in my mind before I can start to tackle another large project the size of this, beside the other things that I mentioned earlier. So I'm going to be voting nay, but I wanted to explain why. Because I do appreciate the passions of the folks that are involved in this project, and I do think this is an important project for the village. I just don't think it's today's project, and any money that we spend on this project is better spent closing that gap with the library and getting that project underway.
Did you have more? You're ready for more questions, right?
Yep.
Other questions, comments?
Yes, how did you arrive at the $650,000 number?
Well, we had some cost estimates
Yeah,
up on a
that's what we
board
did.
that we looked at, you know, okay, the basically, all the earthwork,
Yeah.
and the parking lot, and some of the fundamentals to just kind of lay the groundwork.
We sort of did a quasi first phase, to be honest with you,
Yeah,
Jerry.
Yeah.
right.
So, I mean, did you use a percentage of the total cost?
No, we just, based on the cost that Rattler went through up there, we said, Matt just said it, we figured what it would do to grade the site and put a couple of parking lots in.
There was site grading, utilities,
Yeah.
underground drainage, kind of the phase one of what you would normally do if you're developing a site. Because we felt it didn't make sense to look at it and say, well, we're gonna go ahead and put all the money and build completely the baseball fields, and then the rest we're gonna grade later and run utilities and stuff too later. Kind of that foundational type stuff. And when we added it all up, it came up to around $1.5 million plus.
Yeah.
And
it was about $1 million of just kind of basic grading, utilities, parking, and then the 650 was, now that's starting to put in athletic fields.
The amenities.
The amenities, right. Now, doesn't get you all the way there, but that gets you off the ground.
I think, I see Jamie sitting out there. I'll give an example. When we're meeting with Jamie, he had a really good point at, we would do some of the baseball diamonds, but you don't put the dugouts in right away. I mean, that's, you sort of do that in a later phase, Jared.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So basically what we're talking about here is you just want to go out to bid.
No.
No.
What we're talking about, I think, at this point is, do you want your consultants, Rettler and others working on this, to develop a phasing plan with corresponding cost estimates?
Okay.
And start putting this together in a more of a clear package to bring back for potential adoption by the board of a resolution that would kind of put this board's stamp of approval on this process.
Okay.
But I think we're
way
a
away
long
from
way
that.
away from borrowing any money or bidding or anything. It's really going to depend on, I think the big thing for the board would be, the policy statement I would hear is, potentially the board would be saying, hey, community, if the community can raise $650,000 and bring it to the table, then we would be willing to borrow $1 million to allow us to move forward with what looks like this piece of the work. And it would be basically sending the message that you're supportive of doing that. That's kind of the direction this is going.
Okay.
And you'd have that, and so we would be potentially able to come back to the board in, I don't know, a month or 2 months or something, with something like that for you to consider voting on, to say, do you want to send that message to the community?
Okay, so we're just still planning. It's
Still
just
in
a
the-
plan.
Still in the planning stage.
What's it gonna cost to do that phasing plan?
I think Rattler Corporation at this point has had a really good working relationship with the Village of Oregon, and we said we would just do that as part of our current contract. So to put together a phasing, as long as we know what the numbers are, and as long as we know what the general goals are as part of that first phase, and I'm going to be honest, the approach you guys are taking with working your way from the ground up is the most efficient approach with doing the site grading. Working from the ground up is the way to go. So we're in it to help you guys at this point with that phasing plan. So
Okay, so we're basically just trying to decide if we can afford to do this at the risk of not losing our other major projects, right?
I think that's where you're headed towards. So
Yeah.
I'm hearing that Rattler would say they'll do the phasing plan at no additional cost. Did I hear that right?
We'll do that as part of our current contract.
I think
Matt's gonna pin that down.
I just want to make sure.
Yeah, and that's just really what that's not a big process.
Okay,
Matt would call that pro bono.
that would be pro bono work, that's right.
Well, we've contracted
Yeah,
with
we have a
them to do
contract
the
with
work,
Rattler.
and so
Yeah,
that's.
so we thank you for doing that.
That's part of our plan.
Thank you.
And then there's some time on my end and working with staff to kind of put a resolution together with all the other nuts and bolts. And,
Okay.
I don't know exactly what that's going to take. I don't think it's a huge project. It's, we're probably talking maybe $500 or something
Okay.
like that to get
So
to
it's
that
an-
point. To come back, and then you have the opportunity to say, but this is, and to Trustee Boudreaux's point, the question you're going to have to ask is, are you comfortable saying, yes, we can afford to spend X dollars of village money on making this happen, assuming we get this level of fundraising support from the community?
Okay.
So, couple questions. I like the idea of doing the phasing plan. I think that'd just be good information to know since we're not going to be doing it all at once, sounds like. But I think I heard you say $1 million, and this says 500,000 with the option of doing another 500,000. Are we more towards the million then? Are you just kind of assuming that that's going to happen, or what's the
Mike, what's
clarification on that?
what you're thinking about that?
Well, again, it'd be part of the fundraising. I think it'd be an incentive that we would say to the community, if you raise this 650, we'll just about match that with another 500,000. We currently have $500,000 in the draft capital improvement plan, and I'm
Right.
proposing to do another 500,000 to match the 650 approximately.
And then would we, pardon me, because I only have a little bit of experience
Yeah.
with these large projects, but would we be doing a memo of understanding similar to what we have been doing with the library board?
Well, what we've been talking about here is, instead of negotiating that kind of a memorandum of understanding with all the different athletic organizations, I thought we would present this as a resolution that the board would adopt, that would communicate to the community and to the different organizations. If the community does, develop, can raise this amount of money, then the board's intention is to move forward with a project that looks like this and to contribute this much in village resources. So I'm seeing that resolution as kind of the MOU, in a sense, saying, and I would draft it so that it wouldn't be binding on the board in the sense that if something happened and you changed your mind, you wouldn't have to do it. But we need some way of communicating to the community and to the different organizations what the village would like to see happen and is willing to support. So I'm not gonna set it up as like a binding contract, but it's going to be, this is our vision, this is what we think it's gonna cost, this is what we're willing to contribute, this is what we need from the community, and if these things all happen in this order, this is what we would be supportive of as a board. That's kind of how I see this playing out.
Okay.
And then you'll have to decide as a board, are you comfortable with these numbers? Is $1 million a number you're comfortable with? If the board says no, we are only comfortable with $500,000, then we have to look at, well, what does that mean? Does that mean we can go forward with something, or does that mean we really can't? Because you really need more to get off the ground. And I think it's that all of the site grading and the parking lot and the utilities, I mean, that's about $1 million, and somehow that's the big hurdle that, in order for this to happen, somehow you gotta get over that hurdle.
And that's sort of what stopped it back in 2011. I don't remember,
Yeah.
Steve remembers that. Yeah, so we're, in a sense, Steve, if I can speak
Yeah,
here.
go ahead.
So President Staten back then said the organizations needed to do the so-called seed money, and, I'm proposing is the village takes the lead on that. We do the seed money and do the grading and everything, and then do the matching donation from the community.
But we wouldn't do it the way we're talking about structuring this. The village would say, we're not putting in the money to
Right.
put the foundation in place until the organizations that are gonna use it, the baseball, the soccer, and so on, until they can bring enough money to the table to actually start putting in the playing fields and the other facilities. It
So-
doesn't, yeah.
So Matt, what comes first? Should we do the resolution and make sure there's majority of the board that wants to do it, or should we?
Well,
do
the
the
problem
phasing.
is, it's a classic chicken and egg problem,
Yeah.
right? You don't know really what to put in there until you have some of the nuts and bolts put together in terms of, I think it would be helpful to have at least a
little bit of a phasing?
the phasing plan to say, here's the plan that we all can see. We can understand it as board members and as the organizations in the community. We know what we're looking at, and then you know what you're voting on.
Because that way maybe Rutler would look at it and say, well, actually, you need 1.7 or something. We'd have a better defined number, right, for the first phase.
I think it's pretty important to know kind of what do we need to shoot for at a minimum
Yeah, okay,
financially to get this thing off the ground.
yeah.
Because I heard a $4 million number is everything, right? And we're talking about, what can we get off the ground for 1.6? I'm not really sure what that is. Is that's all the foundational work plus something, but I don't know what that something is. Is that just the baseball? Or is that the baseball plus one soccer field? I really don't know.
I did ask Mike to be here. Mike, do you have any input on this, Mike? Mike Slavny? If you don't mind, sorry.
Well,
Just so folks watching know, this is Mike Slavny, who's our village planner. Welcome, Mike.
it's nice to be here. I would suggest that the initial phasing be as small an initial impact as possible. That if it's possible to do an initial phase with less than 1.6, it would be good for the village and the athletic organizations to know, because they may not be able to raise 650,000. So I think it would be most helpful if Rutler identified, we're only gonna need to do one bridge, and you know what, it's already there for this first phase. Really, how can we be as cost-effective as possible, so we set that expectation at the most achievable possible level. And then the next increments can be small,
to get you to the 1.6 or whatever that number is.
Thanks, Mike.
And in my mind, once we've got kind of that kind of information, everyone can see it, then the folks who are raising money can go to the community and say, if we can raise this much money, this is what we can do. And people know what they're contributing to. But I don't think right now we really know that. I mean, because I don't think we can go out, I don't think people can go out and show people that and say, that's what we're gonna get, phase one. That's not what we're gonna get, phase one.
Judy?
I'd be interested in knowing, so we heard from the youth baseball program, 550 kids. I know there's other people in the audience tonight, and I know it's intimidating to come talk, but I'd be interested to know how many youth total this would affect or help, or can you just like maybe throw out numbers or whatever you
Sure.
want to do? Because I think that would probably help the board understand that this is a lot of money, but how many youth would benefit from this project?
Soccer's not here, I can't speak for soccer. Can you come up to the
Sorry.
We want to be sure we get you on TV.
I can't speak for soccer, soccer's not here, but I think in the past, I think he's said like around 700 or 800
Yeah.
kids
Okay.
for soccer. I think softball's here, how many in the softball program? About another 150 for softball. And I'm not really sure about lacrosse, I think there's somebody from rugby here, so I'm not really sure how many kids are in that, but I know lacrosse is really growing too. So I think they're starting to increase their numbers as well.
So we have youth baseball, youth soccer, girls softball, lacrosse, rugby. Anybody else?
At one point, Mike, in one of our meetings, we actually did this, and it was like 2,400 kids.
Is it, I couldn't remember, I was trying to remember that.
2,400, it was, but obviously some kids play soccer and play
Right.
Football sports.
another sport.
They're in multiple sports,
Yeah.
that would
Jimmy,
affect.
would you mind coming up, because I'm going to ask you another question.
I
Sorry, I'm
was-
just taking over.
I apologize. I was supposed to be here. I sent Mike a message. I'm like, I have to keep my places open.
Yeah, yeah.
So
Yeah.
Mother Nature intervened tonight.
We
So
marked you
sorry.
late, but go ahead.
So, I don't know exactly what's been said, but yeah, 2,400 was what we decided when we added up all of the different.
I remember
groups.
2,000, I couldn't remember the exact number.
So that's K through 8?
That's whatever the programs have as,
Okay. Or
so
maybe
that would
like
be
high
all
school
Oregon, youth baseball, adding in all their numbers, soccer adding in all their numbers for all the youth sports, but obviously some of them are duplicates. I mean, if a child is in two sports, I don't know if we had any numbers for rugby. I don't think we did, because
Yeah,
I believe
not sure.
Oregon has a rugby program, so I don't know.
I think that's about 50.
Yeah.
Could be. And then, I do know that, like, we're looking at least in the school system, the email that I got said a 50% increase in students in the next 5 years. So even if we're looking at that kind of increase, we're looking at well over 3,500 kids using this in 4 to 5 years.
Yeah, it's actually 50% by 2030.
2030?
Yeah, 2030.
Oh. I thought
That's
it was
report
like-
the school board meeting.
I remember that
last
school
summer.
board memo. I'm just not
Yeah.
literate evidently.
Yeah.
Looked at it. But yes, lots. Okay, so we're off.
Yeah.
But we're looking at lots of kids coming
Yeah.
in soon.
So Jamie, what do you think about that 650 number? Is that like pie in the sky, or is that feasible fundraising?
I believe that there's also a youth summit going on right now for Oregon sports. They gave us a lot of literature to read. I don't know if anybody's on that youth summit for Oregon sports. I'm sure, yeah,
I am,
okay. Yeah, and so they give you a lot of different items to kind of just videos and information. Youth sports is $15 billion is what was spent in 1 year. And what it's really doing is it's creating a have and a have-nots. So people that want their kids to have things, they start going outside of their communities and they start going to other programs. So baseball, we've already seen it. Your kids want to go to SBR, they want to, or not SBR, GRB, they want to go to the, Thundercats. It pulls kids and it takes them out of your youth programs because the parents are always trying to get the next best, and especially if your facilities are not adequate, and what they've shown is that it's also related to income. So the less income people have, the less likely they are to play sports if the sports programs are this, and the higher, and so you're starting to get this real disparity in how kids are brought into sports. So, and I just feel like this is just something that as we're already short, I mean, we've already seen our numbers for certain age groups hugely decline when they have to go to Fitchburg.
it's hard, you know? You have an hour-long practice, but you have a half-hour drive each way. I mean, I love libraries. I do. My kids read all the time. They're in honors English, all of them. And it's like, but I'm like, this is one thing where it's everyone. It's every family. I mean, it affects so many people, and it's really, you're starting to see it. If we don't have the facilities, the kids that want to participate either are going to get priced out or they're going to leave. And that's what we're seeing. So that's why originally, 2 years ago, I started doing this and got into this, is just trying to fix this that I saw happening. And obviously in 2011, the village saw it, and we just couldn't jump over that hurdle then.
So Jamie, when you talk about youth sports, I don't know all the lingo, I apologize. So like youth sports, kids still have to pay, but what you're saying is it's not like cost prohibitive to join?
Oh, well,
Versus like if they join a club sport or whatever.
like how much does it cost?
Yeah.
For which one? I mean, some of them, like soccer, some of the kids, what, $1,000 for a,
Right.
I mean, it's $1,000 a season, so 2 seasons. There's kids that spend tens of thousands traveling. I mean, we had kids that play on our lacrosse, because lacrosse is not actually a sport that has a ton, so the coyotes, or wild coyotes, I can't remember what they're, it's the Dane County one. They went to Colorado and Texas, I think, as a travel team at 12 years old. And they were invited by other communities to come out there, and they have these just massive things. And so like these things are growing, and they're just, people are willing, so when you ask me, is this pie in the sky? It has nothing to do with Christian. Do you know where the term comes from?
No.
Never mind, okay.
Tell me that later.
I can. It has to do with religious people and whether or not they think they're gonna go on to heaven and they don't do anything while they're here. But, okay, side note. I distract myself all the time, but there's so much money being spent right now that it depends on whether or not we give them something they feel is feasible. If we show this program and we say, hey, there's this chance that maybe sometime in the future, but probably not for your kids, this might happen, no, I don't think we can. But that's why when I first talked to you about, when I was like, do we add more in initially? The 500,000 that was in there, I came back and I said, if I'm knowing that I'm going to give $1,000, and I know that 1,000 is turning into 2,000, I feel there's more potential for people to put that 1,000 in. If I feel like I'm gonna put in 50 and it turns into 100, that was where I came up with the matching idea. I thought, hey, if the village was willing to match, and Mike was like, well, what if we added a little more? And we talked about that, and that became the way that we thought, that's an incentive. If I'm a parent and I'm like, hey, I'm already spending all this money already, I put this much in and it doubles, well, there's potential there. And I do think it's gonna take somebody, there's going to have to be either a naming right on the fields. I mean, we don't have the JCs anymore. If somebody has a fairly large donation that they'd be willing to make the park be called something, I mean, hey, we'd be all for it. There's a lot of potential, but yeah, I mean, I don't think it's gonna go on a $20 hat. You know, I don't know if that's gonna get us there, and it will take some, like, you know, a walk of fame. If you go to Verona's, one of the things that they did, almost 180,000 was just the plaques. And so if we match that, that's 360. You know, I mean, so I think it can happen. There's enough, I believe that Oregon has the financial capacity to do that. I do. I mean, I've seen what people put into sports. I've seen kids show up, and every kid on my team that I coach has a full backpack with 2 bats in it, and each bat is $180. And I'm going, okay, you know what I mean? And they're wearing $400, $500, and they're wearing a pair of, you know, cleats that are $160, and I know that they can only have those size feet for like 6 weeks. You know, but they're there and they're spending them, and then they figure out a way to do it. And so I guess I feel like if there was a community, and I think that's important. You know, when we talked about that too, I'm like, I think this needs to be something that the community runs. There needs to be a Park and Recs department that keeps this operational, so there's events and activities all the time, and it's a hub. I mean, yeah, so I think it could be done. I mean, I don't think it's gonna be easy, and I think we need to get everybody on board. I think it needs to be, I mean, did you talk about the pamphlets?
No.
Oh. All right, so Ticey Printing, who is in town, has been working with us, and we're working on pamphlets that actually can get handed out by every kid that plays in every sport. They can go to every door, and they can hand out this pamphlet, and there are individual items that people can buy. So it'll be like, hey, here's a coffee mug, here's a hat, here's a sweatshirt, that's why I said the hat. And it would say, okay, this product is $20, and it says I support or whatever, and then the actual value or cost is, let's say, 12, so you're only making 8, but the match would make it a $16 donation. So people would feel, it's a $20 hat and I get 16 to the community, that's a great deal for me. So we're hoping to push that. That was one of the reasons why we want to do this matching thing. Right. But on top of that, then you can also say, hey, I'm willing to spend this much money and get one of these plaques. And these are all the, you know, like, whether it's a certain color or size or whatever, and then you have like a walk that people walk down and they see it, and then when they walk down, they can say either in memory of, or, you know, I love baseball, so I'm gonna have one, and they just have all these things. And you give every kid one of these, because if it affects every sport and it's a positive thing for every sport, I think there's potential. That was really long, I apologize.
Okay. Well, that answered my question. So my thoughts are, maybe building a little bit off of Jeff's thoughts, is that as a board member, I feel like I have to think big, and I have to think broad, and I can't focus on one project at a time. Just like last week or 2 weeks ago, we were talking about setting the stone for doing the infrastructure to get across 14, right? So that's probably like a 10-year project. I would hope this would not be more than a 4 or 5 year project, because I think that's probably about, if you're trying to get people to raise money, I'm thinking about, like, if I had a kid in high school, I'd give money hoping that they would be able to use this by the time they get out of high school. But I think that we need to lay the groundwork, and, I mean, we have, how many sports organizations? If you're representing a sport organization, raise your hand. You can raise your hand. We have people here that are, like, willing to fundraise. So why would we not do a public-private partnership and get moving? I mean, Jamie's enthusiasm is just, it's catching. So I vote we try to do more than one thing at once, and we try to do everything as well as we can, as fast as we can, but we keep moving on stuff.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. You know, and one thing that's not been said about this yet is the value of athletics to kids that are involved. To me, that's priceless. I mean, I was a high school AD for 9 years, and I saw research that said that kids involved in sports and other extracurriculars are most likely to be successful as adults and be healthy, contributing, productive. I mean, to me, that's worth a lot of money. And if you get kids started early, you keep them out of a lot of risky behaviors as they go through school. Does that mean all athletes are not going to have risky behaviors? No, but you increase the chances that they won't, and they'll grow up be healthy and productive once they're adults. To me, that's worth a lot of money. And you know, I fully support this.
If you keep kids busy, they have less time to get in trouble.
Yeah, I mean, and physical activity is healthy.
That's the key
and
parenting right there.
Kids sit around with technology way too much. Let's get them on the soccer field, the softball diamond, baseball diamond, football field, whatever, and get them playing, get them active. And that also builds relationships. Parents meet each other. That forms friendship groups. That's important too. You know, I have parents I still hang out with. My kids are 40 and 43 right now, but we still know some of their parents and do things with them. And that's worth a lot too, I think, to build those relationships because it forms community. I think that's really important. So I'm like Jeannie, I support moving ahead with several projects that are important to maintain a good balance in the village. I don't think we sink everything into one thing and not do anything else. Plus, we have 4 of the department heads that they need support too. And they do valuable things for the village also, and I just think this balances us up. I'd love to see us get this done at some point in time fairly soon, have a park and rec director, and have a great facility for the kids in the community. That'd be
Just
my
one
statement.
question. Now, this would be the softball. Would that be for the younger kids, or a T-ball? You have T-ball in there too?
Right now, the T-ball group plays at the middle school.
Okay.
And so I don't know, because the bases are longer kind of too long for the younger kids. So I think the T-ball ages would probably still
Stay there.
stay at the middle school.
So this would be maybe
This
begin
would
at the
probably
age,
be like 3rd through 8th grade that would use this facility.
be 9, 10,
Correct.
go up there until high school?
Yep,
No.
up until they get to high school, then they'd start using the high school facilities.
Even the soccer players would be only grades, Rome Corners and middle school.
Yeah, I believe so.
The
I guess I
soccer
can't
players
speak for
would play
soccer,
it.
I guess, but
The soccer could use these fields, because if you see on these, they actually show you each field has inside of it another square, and there's one up in the top right. That is actually the youngest kid's soccer size, so they could actually turn this into 9 fields for the youth. So if they ever had like a youth tournament for like
Yeah.
little kids, like 5 and 6-year-olds, they could use this and turn it into 9 fields for one day.
And Oregon always seems to have a big soccer tournament here. Yeah.
Second and
yeah,
state.
exactly.
And your baseball, I know I've talked to kids from Mount Horeb that have come down to play baseball, and they have to play over in the other diamonds.
Right,
I think it's a great idea. My kids were in Madison, but everything they did in Madison, they paid for. You know, everything was, they had to pay extra for it. And I feel that the kids from Fitchburg should have to pay. even though that they're in the school district, but they come in here. That's my personal feeling.
And like I said, I'll definitely address that with our board and see,
Yeah.
kind of get our thoughts on that.
Yeah, and I'd be willing to meet with your board to talk about that if they'd
Okay.
like to, so it's firsthand, face-to-face.
Okay.
If you don't want me, that's fine too. If you don't know, it's up to you. You won't hurt my feelings. It's one less meeting, but I would be willing to do that. It's not a problem. So other questions, comments from either side? Yeah, Rich?
Yeah, I just want to say, with the phasing, I just want to be sure that, the first phase would be enough. I know we talked about, Mike said, make it minimum, but I think it would have to be enough so that it would generate the excitement to get it built, to get it off the ground, as well as we don't want to end up in the first phase with something less than we have now, so the less usable
Right.
spaces.
Yeah, and I would kind of watch what we do with the phasing too, because I don't want our current fields to be torn up and then we have to wait 2 years before the fields are actually getting built, because then that puts us in a worse situation than we're already in for fields, so.
Doug?
Yeah, my concern is in regard to the library. We have two major projects that are going to be looking for funding from the community. And to see how that works out, I would support the phasing because of the need to have good numbers in front of us when we
Yeah.
talk about the library.
Yeah, good. Yeah, I think the phasing puts it at a level where it becomes doable.
And everybody has a passion. You're gonna put your money where your passion is.
Yeah. Yeah, some for the library, some for sports,
Yep.
some for both.
Right.
Yeah. Good point, Judy. Other questions or comments? Anyone? Okay.
So it sounds like if Rutland's willing, and you guys are, to go ahead with the phasing plan, and then if it's okay with both boards, then we'll get that back, and then I think we'll probably have another joint meeting if that's okay with the park board? Okay. And then Matt and I will work on the resolution, and we'll bring both those items forward to you,
Okay.
and whenever they're ready.
Does that sound agreeable for tonight? Then we'll have something to actually read and vote on. To go ahead with the phasing plan then.
Yeah, I'd like to
That's
see
not
in the,
accept
in the
yes.
phasing plan too, how that impacts the existing fields. What are we giving up in this first phase? What does that include? Because, yeah, we don't want to make the situation worse for extended period.
Okay. Park board, anything else? Okay, I think that's our plan going forward. Appreciate your continued work on this, and thanks to folks who
Thank you.
addressed us. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jamie.
Okay, Rich, we're at the point where you get a motion second for adjournment of the park board, unless there are other questions, comments that you want to make. Anybody? I want to stop you, so, okay.
Okay, so I would motion that we adjourn the park board meeting.
Second.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. We'll take just a couple minutes here while everybody switches spots. Appreciate it. Thanks, park board.
Okay.
Okay, we had a short break. We are back in action now. We're on item 5D, discussion possible action regarding denial of operator's license for Amy Swenson. So, Chief, if you'd like to give us your information here.
Yeah, just a brief overview. One of my sergeants went over this and realized after running the check that there was quite a bit left off the application. I think just real briefly, she's got 13 operating after suspension tickets. There's a display unauthorized registration in 2017, non-registered motor vehicle in 2017. Speeding ticket in 06 and 01. I think she only has one listed here, but there's not a date on it, so 8 years ago. So there was quite a bit left off, and that was the reason for the denial.
Okay. Amy, did you want to address the board? I think you know you have to come to the microphone. Thank you. Welcome.
When I applied, when I came up to apply, like I live in Janesville, and this is the first time I ever applied for a bartending license. I was not prepared, and I did not know that I had to list everything. If I would have known that, I would have done that. I mean, I've gone in, I've done all that now. I mean, I've been here for 7 years. I've been working at Mulligan's, and I've never had anything with any kind of alcohol, any kind of drugs, nothing like that. I don't drink while I'm here, nothing.
I know that Candy's very specific when she hands these out, that she even refers people to CCAP, which is even on the application to list everything that's on there, so.
And Candy did.
Yeah.
But I literally came in like right before they closed, which, like I said, I did not know. She even told me if I wanted to go on CCAP to do it. When I was going over it with her, I said, well, this was the situation. And I said, can I put multiples and put a year? She's like, you can try it. But she did not, she said there was a chance it could be denied. She did tell me that.
Okay.
I was just trying not to keep your ladies upstairs up there forever, because I know they wanted to go home. It was a Friday.
Very good.
Can you tell me the years again, Chief,
For,
for the violations?
I did not write down all 13 OAS tickets as far as the dates go. So I'd have to go back and actually look that up.
What's
to
the
get
most
those.
recent date that you have in front of you?
I don't have the dates on them.
Okay. And are you saying that you've been serving at Mulligan's and this is a renewal?
I wasn't bartending. I was just, I was serving at Mulligan's, and then just recently they wanted me to start bartending. So that's why now I was asking for the bartending license.
You've been there 7 years, you said?
Correct.
Chief, were any of, or maybe Amy, were any of the tickets, did any of them involve any sort of alcohol or drugs?
Nothing.
So traffic violations?
It is traffic.
Was it driving without a license because like you didn't have insurance or?
It's a really long story.
Okay, I figured it was a personal, so it's okay. But it didn't involve alcohol or drugs?
Absolutely not. Nothing.
Okay.
So for me, the issue always comes down to character. And that's the reason that the question's there. I mean, it's not like we can't go to CCAP and get your background. We can, we did, right?
Correct.
The issue for me is if I ask you an honest question, are you gonna give me an honest answer?
Absolutely.
Because there's a lot of character that's responsible when you're responsible for choosing to serve or not serve a minor, right?
Correct.
So as I sit here looking at your application, I see the paragraph that says, the applicant's responsible for listing all, in capital letters, bolded, violations, including those listed on the WCCA website and those that may not be included. And then in bold, bold caps, applicants may be denied for falsification. So the first question I have in my mind is, why did you choose not to complete it in its entirety when you were told you needed to, or it could result in a denial? And you've talked about that a little bit. And I'm still kind of left with the character issue, which kind of speaks to what Jeannie's question was, which is there a logical explanation for what was going on in your life during that period of time when everything went sideways? And there might not be, and I respect the fact that you don't want to go through it, but it leaves me with the question of character. And how would you address that?
I mean, if you want me to answer, I'm more than happy to answer that. It's been a really long haul. Back in, let me see, 2006, I believe, I got into a car accident. And I lived in Stoughton. So at some point, I moved from Stoughton to Janesville. And in that process, I did not put like a change of address. So the person that I had hit went and basically gave me, took me to small claims court. And I didn't know anything about this until my license was suspended. And by that point, when my license was suspended, I had gotten a ticket. That's how I knew they were suspended. And I have 5 kids. I am by myself. I don't receive child support. It is hard.
Yeah.
It is very hard to keep keeping up with everything. And it was just literally just escalated and escalated and escalated and escalated.
Yeah.
To the point where that's where it came from. That's where it was at.
Yeah.
So,
Kind of snowballed.
yes.
Off that one incident.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So Amy, how do you plan to get to work when you don't have a license?
Right now, I'm not driving. But
You
I
just got a ticket for driving.
Which one?
You got 2 new CCABs on here that I just see that.
Yes, the last one I had on there, my friend just lost her baby. That was who was giving me a ride. So that is why I had to come to work. So that is why I drove. I just paid all my tickets. It takes 7 to 10 days in Janesville to come off your record so that I can go to the DMV and pay them off. So after that, like, everything will be there. I have to have my RS-22 insurance. I have to carry that for 2 years. So as long as that's taken care of,
But
then my license.
since I ran this in our last meeting, you got another ticket for operating
Yes.
after suspension.
Yeah, that was just now, just within like 2 days ago.
Right, so that leaves me, how are you gonna get back and forth when you continue to drive?
She's out of the hospital. That was the reason I drove, because she was in the hospital. That's why I didn't come to this last meeting, is because she had lost her baby. That was my ride.
But you had 14 now. So is there 14 different excuses for driving
No.
without a license?
No, I did it because I had to go to work. I mean, there's really no other excuse for it, you know?
Okay.
So do you have a consistent ride now
Yes,
that would bring you into Oregon from Janesville
yes.
to work?
Yes. Until all this is taken care of, yes.
So when are you due to get your license back?
I have to wait. I just paid my last ticket off on Friday, so I have to wait 7 to 10 days for them to come off. And once they come off, then I can go to the DMV, show them proof of insurance, and then I can get them back.
These are never easy.
I know, it's a big vicious circle.
It is.
It's like you can't pay your tickets unless you work, but you can't get to work if you don't have a license.
Exactly.
I get that.
Yep, that's
I get that.
that's tough.
No, no,
So one thought I have is, we don't act tonight.
Okay,
Get your license.
okay,
Bring a letter from the manager, owner, somebody at Mulligan's that attests to sound character
okay.
and a very good employee and no problems. Now, I can't decide that on my own, but
When are you eligible
I'd be a
for
lot more
reinstatement?
comfortable with that.
I probably won't be able, I can do the reinstatement, but I'll probably have to do an occupational at first. That's what we were talking about. So after that, I want to say, because I think if I'm right, if we were talking about it right, I think I'm out, like, my points. I'm over on my points or whatever. So as soon as they accumulate and I can, is it start over? Or they come off so that they're less than 12, then I can get them reinstated. But until then, I think I would have to do the occupation.
I'd have to go back and look at your record to see even when you're eligible to be reinstated, so.
Well, I'm eligible, as long as my tickets are paid, like, I'm eligible. I just have to, whether it's
But you just got more points.
correct, but I would still be able to do an occupational. I mean,
Possibly,
okay.
Yep.
That's what, I was gonna say, that's
Yeah.
just what they told me.
yeah.
Okay.
You know, Steve, given the fact that, given Amy's stipulation that these issues are all traffic-related, and given your confirmation that these are all traffic-related.
I think they were all failure to pay fine, I think, and of that nature. I didn't see any alcohol-related offenses on there that I can recall, but I'd have to go back and look.
And
Yeah.
my concern when I'm approving an alcohol license is whether somebody is going to be able to dispense alcohol correctly within the village limits. So I'd be willing to put the motion forward to approve the operator's license for Amy, because I don't have any concerns about Amy's ability to dispense alcohol correctly within the village. And I would, notice, Amy, that when you fill out official forms, you've got to fill them out correctly or it can come back around on you.
Okay.
Are you making that a motion?
I will make that motion.
I'll second it.
Chief, how do you feel about that?
Uh,
I'm sorry to put you on the spot.
It's hard. Well, it's
Yeah.
hard because,
Yeah.
you know, you want to entrust someone with good judgment.
Mhm.
I don't know that we have that necessarily. I mean, there's always some kind of reasons why we're driving, and we can always justify why we're driving. Not to say that it wasn't a valid excuse this time, but that's 14 of them.
I know.
And I get Jeannie's point. I mean, it's kind of a vicious cycle, but at some point, we have to make that conscious decision to make the right one, and it hasn't happened, so.
So, separate question, not necessarily of you, because I don't think it'd be fair
Yeah.
to ask you, but had she listed all 14 violations, she would have passed Chief's background.
Maybe. I don't know. You know, again, for me, it's hard because you've got, and I go back to it again, you want to have someone who's responsible serving alcohol and is going to abide by the rules. This doesn't show that we're abiding by the rules. So that's where I get stuck with it as well. Again, I get the vicious cycle, and it happens that way, but if I need to get to a job and I know I can't drive, then I need to find a ride. I need to figure out how to get there. And to say whatever it is this week why I drove, are we making the best choices? And that's where I get stuck.
Fair enough, I respect that, Chief.
Yeah, and Jeff, you said that you'd be comfortable given what you've heard tonight, but in reality, we haven't heard a lot. I mean, my heart goes out too. The 5 kids by yourself and had no license on top of that, that's a load. 1 kid by yourself is a load, I would guess. But that's why I thought, you know, I'd like to see, Amy said she'd get her license. Well, let's see that she actually can.
Okay.
Is that accurate? Let's hear what Supervisor Mulligan's has to say. And I'm thinking she's doing a good job. She's been there 7 years. You know, a lot of people aren't in those jobs very long, so you must have done something right to stay there and
Yeah.
like it and work hard and make them happy, whatever. So I would just like to see confirmation of that before we approve it.
Fair enough.
So, I mean, given that, I'm gonna vote against this tonight. I'd like to wait and see what happens going down the road.
Thank you.
This is a real brief window of what this is like, and I mean, 14 times is a lot of bad judgment.
I know. I'm not going to sit here and justify that it was right, because, I mean, I know it wasn't right. Before this, I didn't have anything, like hardly anything on my record, you know? And sometimes when you're a parent, you do make those bad choices to do what you have to do.
Yeah.
Not justifying it, I'm not. I'm not saying it was right to do it. But those are choices I made, and that I can't change.
How did you get caught 14 times? That sounds like really bad luck.
I have the worst luck in the world. But, no, I mean, it wasn't always. It was, you know, like, it could have been a headlight out. It could have been, you know, that a couple times the registration was wrong. Like, the registration was bad on the car. And there was one of my friend's cars where I didn't even know that, and I got pulled over. You know, it was just little things, you know. It could have been that I rolled through a stop sign, and, you know, anything. Just
Okay.
At the wrong
I
time.
was just curious.
And I really appreciate your forthrightness. I mean, to the extent that I'm hearing you tell your story, I know how hard it is. You know, Jeannie said this a million times. It's hard to come up to the microphone to talk about anything, let alone deeply personal things. So I want you to know I appreciate that.
Thank you.
Other thoughts? So we have a motion to approve this tonight.
Do you need a second?
We
Yeah,
have
we
a
got a
second.
second, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
We just need to
And
call
the
it.
option is,
Well,
do you have a secondary motion?
if you like my motion, we would wait until she got her license back and brought a statement of support from Mullins.
Don't we have to, do we vote on this one first and
Yeah.
then do that one?
If
or-
you support
Okay.
what I said, you've got to vote it down.
That's why you're here,
I won't be crushed if you do.
Well, that's one of the great things about this
this
board is that we can
Yeah.
disagree with each
Yeah.
other and it's all
Yeah.
right. We don't take
Yeah.
it personally, so.
Yeah, you know, probably you're tired of hearing this, but I'm thinking back when I was working in the office, you get some kid in the office who's in trouble, some could con you right out of your shoes,
That's true.
you know? And I'm not saying you're doing that,
You
but
got big,
that's just.
you got big shoes.
Yeah, I know. I lost them a few times too, let me tell you. Although I was called a human lie detector once by a kid. But to me, that just provides something that clearly documents you've done what you said you would. Mulligan's definitely wants you to do this. They've been happy with you for 7 years,
Okay.
and
Can
I
you-
could live with it.
Can you swing that, Amy?
I can do that.
Okay,
But if this motion is approved, you don't have to.
right.
Okay.
So So we have the motion to approve it. Let's do a roll call just so I don't have to count voices, so.
Carpenter?
Yes.
Bollig?
No.
Redhauer?
Could you restate, please,
The motion is to approve the license.
no.
Grenier?
Yes.
Staton?
No.
Jacobson?
Yes.
Boudreaux?
Yes.
Okay, that motion carries. So your license was approved.
Okay, perfect, thank
So
you.
congratulations.
Thank you, I appreciate it. And if you want to also bring all that lovely stuff in for you.
Thank you.
I don't really know how this works. Does it just get mailed to me, or
Do you want it mailed to you, or do you want to pick it up?
I can pick it up? That would be great, 'cause then I can just give it to them right away.
We're here 7:30 to 4:30, Monday through Friday.
I'm sorry, what
We're
was
here
that?
7:30 to 4:30, Monday through Friday, the offices.
Do you want me, we can give you a call.
Okay.
I'm assuming your number is on the
It should,
application.
it should be. Otherwise, like I work Monday mornings, I can always stop over on a Monday morning.
Okay.
Okay.
Yep.
Anything else?
I think you're all set.
Okay, thank you guys.
Thanks, Amy.
You're welcome.
And good luck.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, item 6, village attorney, village administrator report. Item A, discussion and possible action regarding license agreement for use of dumpster corral for Firefly Coffee House Artisan Cheese LLC. Recommended motion is to approve that agreement.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you.
Dumpster corral.
Now,
No.
let's-
If there's
So-
two words I don't want to
I
hear
think we
together
should make
anymore,
this
it's
really
those two.
difficult.
I have second thoughts in this
Yeah,
one.
me too.
Well, I'm not gonna vote on this, obviously, when I abstain, but I brought this forward to,
Yeah.
the village administrator and the attorney, because I did not want there to be any impropriety or
Yep.
looks of anything. So I want everything to be above board, and I'm happy to pay the annual fee.
And the $100 is about what people are going to be paying across the street.
Yeah.
That's how we came up with the number.
Yeah.
in case you
So
wanna know.
where's the stuff going now?
We'll be doing the same thing that we have been doing, but the former owner did not pay any sort of, fee,
Okay.
because, yeah,
All right.
just doesn't.
Yeah, and good for you for doing this.
Yep,
Yes,
thank you.
very nice.
So we have that motion to approve that agreement for the Firefly and Artisan Cheese. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, you're all set. Thank you.
And I'm abstaining.
Gene
Penny.
abstained.
Yeah. So item B, update regarding the Makavec claim.
So, case is scheduled for a hearing on February 19 to address the plaintiff's motion to disqualify my firm from representing the village on the grounds that one of our partners represented Mr. Makavec a number of years ago on a matter. So that we are vigorously opposing that motion, which we believe is what the village wants us to do.
Yeah.
We will see what happens. If we are successful, then we will simply continue to represent the village and chief on this matter. If for some reason we are not successful in opposing that motion, we can assure you that the village will continue to be well represented by someone else, and we'll cross that bridge when we get there.
The insurance company would then select another law firm.
Right.
Okay.
Just so you all know, you may not remember this, but when this matter first arose and we opened a file on this matter, we identified the fact that one of my partners was doing some work for Mr. Makavec. We recognized that there was a need to get consent from him and from the village for us to continue representing the village. He did grant that consent, and so did the village. So we believe we've been upfront with everybody about the conflict-related issues that needed to be addressed. We think we handled them appropriately. He, after granting consent to authorize us to represent the village, did not raise any objection throughout the process, including after he filed his notice of claim, and we dealt with that. Then he filed his lawsuit, and it took a while before he decided to file this motion. So we think we've handled it as well as we could have, and we're upfront with everybody.
Thanks.
Any questions? Okay, that takes us to item 7, approval of minutes from October 12, 2017, which was our second 2018 budget meeting. Motion, please.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. Any additions or corrections?
There's a small error in the joint meeting with Park Board on the first page. Chair Rich Strohmenger called the 2018 Park Board. I think that was the wrong year, wasn't it? 2017?
It should have probably say 2018 budget. And I'll just strike the year off of there.
It's a small thing. but-
Yeah. No, thank you, Doug. We'll correct that.
Thanks, Matt.
See you, Matt, thanks.
Anything else? So we have motion second to approve minutes from October 12, 2017, which was our second 2018 budget meeting. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Item 8 is approval of vouchers. We have vouchers before us tonight in the amount of $224,830.30. Would like to welcome Lisa back from her surgery. And notice that since she's been gone, the amount of vouchers has gone way down. So we need a motion, please.
I'll move
Well,
approval.
welcome back.
I'll move approval.
Thank you.
Second.
Thank you. Questions?
Couldn't find anything there, Lisa. Good job. Yeah.
That's the new guy, and the training of the existing staff, so. You're doing a good job.
Anyone else?
No, Mike told me to be nice to you. That's right.
One time, Jerry.
One time.
That's one time.
So I'm done now?
You're done.
Okay.
That's it. You're done for the year.
It's good to get that out of the way.
Yeah.
Beginning, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so we have motion second to approve vouchers in the amount of $224,830.30. Roll call, please.
Brett Howard,
Yes.
Carpenter, Yes. Bollig,
Yes.
Grenier,
Yes.
Jacobson,
Yes.
Boudreaux,
Yes.
Staton.
Yes, that motion carries. Thank you. Item 9 is community input. Is there anyone who would like to address the board tonight? No? Seeing none, we'll go to item 10, proclamations and announcements. Item A, board comments. Quiet over here. Item B, staff comments.
I want to start publicizing this crime prevention workshop that the police department's doing with a neighborhood organization. And it's on April 5th from 6 to 8 p.m. And I think it's Chad, right? I think, Brian, that's who's going to be doing this with, yeah, Sergeant Chad, yeah. So that's the first time I'll talk about it. I'll mention it again in upcoming meetings. I think we actually have a permanent member for the HPC. I'm going to have that on the next Monday's agenda. So we're still looking for one alternate member.
Okay.
And then I put the election dates on there because they will affect some of the board meetings this year. I want to make sure you have that on your calendars. And so then we have a meeting next week, Monday, but not a meeting on the 19th because that's the Monday night before the election. We're going to have committee meetings on the 26th, and then on March 5th, we're going to have our annual police award presentation, and then Mike Slavny will be here to talk about possible options for the village hall going forward. And then I want to get where we're finalizing the civic campus plan in the next couple of months, so.
Okay.
The board, that has to go through planning and then back up to the board for approval.
So Brian, on the police awards, that's going to happen in here
Correct.
as part of the board meeting?
Yep, I plan to have them actually in the back.
Okay.
So everyone can see it. We don't have backs. We might have to turn some chairs around in the audience here, but I think that'll be a
Okay.
good function and a good
Yeah, we're looking
ceremony
forward
for
to
the
it, yeah.
for the police
Then you
department.
have refreshments next door, right?
Correct.
In
So
the
we don't get
community
any.
Yeah, come on over.
He will.
So I was planning on taking a short break then, is that all right?
Yeah.
I think we should. Does that sound okay that when, do the awards in here, and then go over there so we can talk to the officers for 15 minutes and then
Yeah.
come back?
I'll put, I'll note that on the.
Yeah, put it right on the agenda?
Yeah,
Does
that'd be
that
great.
sound all right?
Yep.
Okay.
Is that the 26th?
And Mike, is there an
March
update that you could bring
March
back?
5th.
I'm sorry, Jeff.
That's my fault, I was talking over Jerry.
Go ahead.
Is there an update that you can bring back to the board before the 5th on the library, just to kind of let us know where we're at?
Yeah, I'm sorry. You know what? I have forgotten to give the board the 2 sets of ad hoc minutes, and I'm actually putting it on next Monday.
Thank you.
Yep, sorry. I actually just did it on today. Yep.
Thank you.
Yeah, we meet next week to keep that process going.
At our regularly scheduled board meeting or our special board meeting?
That's the MOU meeting during the day. Okay, anything else on that, anyone? Okay, item 11, communication, miscellaneous business. Item A, recent compliance checks. Possible action refer to February 26th Personnel, Public Safety, and Protection Committee meeting. Does that sound agreeable? I'm going to read through those just so people who
Can you
are...
restate what you just said?
Okay, that we would actually discuss this start at the committee meeting
Oh,
with discussion of compliance checks and where to go with this, because
and which committee meeting?
Personnel, Public Safety at the end of the month. Because they went to 19 places and 9 failed, and it was atrocious at best. Charlie's on Main, Bill's Food Center, Firefly, Quick Pip North, Maria's Pizza, Pizza Pit, Ace's Main Tap, Senior Peppers, and Ziggy's. Second time in 12 months for Charlie's on Main, Bill's Food Center, Maria's Pizza, and Ace's Main Tap. So
That's disappointing.
Need to look. Yeah, it's very disappointing. So we look at what we're doing. So that will go to Personnel, Public Safety.
And I apologize, you know, this was supposed to have gone to the committee in January, but that was when I canceled, I was sick, so that's why, I didn't want to have the board not see this until the end of February, which is why I
Yeah.
put on tonight's agenda, so.
You're forgiven.
Okay.
Item D, discussion possible action regarding temporary Class B license for Oregon Rotary Cheese and Wine testing, February 17th. There's a recommended motion to approve that temporary B license for the Rotary events. We need a motion, please.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. It's a great event. I
Yeah.
think it always sells out, right, Jeannie? Yeah. So if you don't have your tickets, get them quickly. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Thank you. Item C, discussion and possible action, maintenance of backup generator at police building. I recommend motions to approve a 5-year agreement with Cummins Incorporated backup generator for $3,342.60.
So moved.
Second.
No.
Can't have a backup generator, it doesn't work.
Yeah, exactly. And, you know, it's interesting, I was getting ready for the emergency management stuff, and I was asking around, and when we tested the backup generator, and I kind of got some blank stares. So, I don't know how often that's been done. Did you say that was done at some point, Jeff? No?
When I read this, I kind of went, oh, sorry. It was done in the past.
But it has been done in the past.
Yeah, oh, yeah.
There's gonna be some really cranky field mice
But-
when you get out there and
Well,
do
I
it.
tell you what, it sits on a gallon, like, I don't know how big the drum is, but it sits on fuel, so it's a lot of fuel it sits on that just doesn't get tested, so.
In fairness, that fuel's half water now.
Probably so, probably so. So, yeah, we definitely need to get it done, and as I mentioned in the memo, that as part of the accreditation process, when we go to full accreditation, it needs to be done monthly, so we need to get a plan in place for that.
This is a lot better than having one of our staff members do it. These are professional people
Yeah.
doing it, and it's important and it's burning
Yeah, it's
popular.
gotta work.
Yep.
Yeah.
Any further questions or comments? We have the motion and second for the 5-year agreement for the backup generator at the police station. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
You're welcome, Brian. Item 12, report of committees. There are none. Item 13, minutes not requiring action. Information from Cable TV Committee. And B, information from Oregon Area Fire EMS District Commission, including January 4th, 2018 minutes. Unfinished business, there is none. New business, there is none. Some future agenda items listed. Item 17 would be a motion for adjournment.
I'll make that motion.
Thank you.
I'll second that.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? We are adjourned.